Hello, everybody. It's fall and I love it. I just looked outside and it's just a nice day, but they've been so many nice days in a row because it's fall and that's what we get. So,
Yes.
best time of year here where I'm from.
Do you get like color changing leaves and all the good stuff?
Yeah, we
I'm
get all of it.
gorgeous.
It's really nice. It's hard to plan a trip or like take a little trip in the mountains and go look at the colors unless you know like a spot where not a lot of people go because it gets so there's just people
As tourists.
everywhere.
You know
Well,
what? I
because it's
just
like 3 weeks. So we
yeah,
just
and they're trying to go see it. And I just saw this Instagram post from somewhere, I don't even remember where, but there's this like tiny town in Connecticut, and they got so annoyed at people coming to look at their scenery in the fall that they just totally cut out any people coming in.
yeah, I saw that too. They like shut the street off at a specific time or they did something to where yeah, you couldn't come in if unless you lived there because too many people were probably littering and traffic jams and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they said they were like destroying their town, and that just I don't understand people who go somewhere else and then just disrespect it so
That
badly.
happens here too. Like that 2 or 3 weeks of time, a lot of people go camping and you'll see like just piles of trash by the campsites. And I mean, they do eventually get cleaned up, but it's just why do you leave it? Like, I
Yeah,
don't like to take it out with me and try to find a dumpster to put it in either, but I do because I'm
right.
not a jerk. Um, but yeah, it's all pretty, and my whole street will turn pretty colors, and hopefully it'll be a long uh fall for us, the long color change because of all the water. We got a lot of rain over the summer, way more than usual.
Yeah.
I already changed my closet out the last few days, and I was like, I feel like I just did this, and I just put shorts in here, and now I'm putting them away. So I was kind of sad because it was like a late start in the summer, and now I'm like putting out like all the layers and my closet is packed with stuff.
Mhm.
Dang it, I forgot this is what happens.
I feel like wherever I live, it's like every year it'll get to this part where I think, okay, it's safe for me to switch out my clothes now. Let's put things away, take things out. And then it'll be like 2 days later, the weather will shift again. It's like, I wish I still
Yeah,
had shorts or whatever. It happens every time. But here it's just hot all the time, so I don't really put away.
that's what I was saying. I didn't think where you were at now you would have a closet change of any sort.
Well, I do put away like the warmer weather stuff, like this, like the hoodie. I no touch a hoodie in the summer. I would die.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I want to. Like I always want to cozy up in a hoodie. So I'll put away like some sweaters and stuff that I mostly just wear if I'm indoors somewhere. Like when I was subbing last year and I was in the school and it was still cold all the
And
time.
they're blasting that AC too. I would get cold when they do that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget about that sometimes, and I'll go to like Target in shorts and a tank top, and it's 70 degrees outside. I'm like, oh, it feels so nice out here. And then I walk and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, can you like adjust it with the temperature outside, or do you just blast it until you and then they blast heat in the winter? I want to wear like my cool heavy like sweaters, and I can't
Uh-huh.
wear anything if I'm going to go inside anywhere that's not something I can like pull like a layer. I have
Yeah.
like these fun sweaters and I can't wear them anywhere unless I'm constantly outside because you go in and the heat is like, what is wrong with people? I'm like, why is it so hot in here?
That's what I always wonder about when you live in a climate that actually has
Layers, when people
weather.
say layers, they are not messing around with you. Like that's the
Yeah.
key to life.
But like if you're walking from the car to the store, you want to be bundled up because it's cold. So then you
You
just
go
take off the
and
sweater,
throw
coat,
it in your cart.
yeah, okay.
And then when you're about to go back in, you put it on. Like, yeah, I that's why I like coats that are long that go to like my knees or past and that are either like a zip or button up and like easy to take on and off because then that keeps me warm if it's really cold and I just throw it off. Um, but yeah, I look like a I'm always like big puffy and just
Yeah.
layers and scarves and like in the
Everything.
winter. It's fun. It's super cozy. And there are moments when I'm like, oh my God, this is the coziest thing ever. And you're outside and it's like 40 degrees, but you love it. But yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself that I don't have that many, but I've got like these really cute chunky sweaters. And it's like, I literally have nowhere like to wear these because I will sweat my face off if we go indoors. It's
That's
impossible.
so confusing. It's like you want to wear the sweaters because it's the weather time to wear the sweaters. Then you go inside and it's hot. But then in the summer it's like ridiculously hot. And you go inside and it's so cold. It's like, when do you wear the sweaters?
You have to have these layers all year round. You just have to have it, or else you're
Bring the
dead.
sweaters like in the summer and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go shopping. And once you get inside to the AC, you can put the sweater on over your summer outfit.
Yeah, just carry like a sweater that goes to your knees and just like a snuggie and just put it on.
Yes.
And I'll be perfect. And if anyone asks you why, you'll be like, it's this crazy heating and air conditioning, and that's why. But yeah, I do love this time of year. Is like I get sad when the summer is over because winter's not my favorite. And like this time of year feels nice and is awesome, but it's also like you can feel how temporary it is in the air. And you're like, oh, it's gonna slip through my fingers. And before I know it, you're warming up your car for 15 minutes and scraping ice off your windshield. Just those are the not fun times.
Yeah, I wouldn't really like that. In Little Rock, when I lived there, it would get cold a few times, but it was like the perfect amount where it's like, oh, it's snowing, everybody stay home. So I didn't really have to go anywhere in the snow.
I
Because it
feel
was
like January to like April isn't great.
Yeah.
It's still sunny because where I'm in Colorado and it's sunny pretty much every god darn day. But sometimes it gets really windy, and the wind when it's cold is when I'm like, nope, I can't do that. That is rough. And it'll look really nice outside, but then it's 30-mile-an-hour winds. And you're like, crap, I can't go for a walk. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah, that wind is no joke. My mom grew up in Wyoming. We visited there a few times. The wind in Wyoming is like absolute bananas. So yeah, I can only imagine in the winter plus that wind.
Yeah, it's no fun. And then the sun tricks you because it's like super bright and sunny, and you're like, oh, let's go for a walk. Oh, wait. And the dogs, I'm like, I'm not going to do that to Sagan would be fine because she's a husky, but
right. Yeah,
the little guy,
Mr.
like,
Nimbus
no.
is like the wind's like taking him away.
Right. We have to pull out all his winter clothes too. He gets like a couple jackets and
does he have a little coat?
Yeah, he does. My favorite piece of clothing he has is like this black distressed hoodie with like the little poles and like the little hood, and it has the belly pocket, but it's on the back. It's so cute. I think she gave it to us when we got the dog, and he looks so like cool in it. I'm like, damn, this is the coolest dog. And he gets so many compliments whenever we put him in that. Everybody's like, oh my God, is that a hoodie? And we're like, yes. And it's the coolest hoodie ever.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's Sean is like, he loves it when it's time for Nimbus to wear clothes because then he gets to like style them out, and it's very cute. He has like matching bow ties and all these kinds of things.
If only he could get him his little like doggy sneakers.
I don't know if he'd wear them. I wish he would. He has snow shoes that we should try harder to have him wear, because when it snows and when it's really cold, we'll be out and he'll be out for like 10 minutes and he'll start like picking up his feet a lot. And we're like, oh shit. So we got him these shoes, but he hates them. And he just like flails around until one of them pops off. And then we're chasing that one. And then, and I've seen these other things that are like, they strap up the leg and like strap around the waist. So it's like almost like pants. Like for all of the appendages. And I was thinking about that, but I'm like, that just looks like so much work.
Yeah.
Like to get that on him and then off of him, and then it's wet. Like, what do I do with it? Like you don't really think of the logistics of winter dog time until it happens. And you're like, ugh, got snow everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot to consider.
All right. Well, now that we've updated you on our weather conditions, let's talk about 1156. We said we were going to talk about it. I think it's a good topic because first of all, we're mental projectors, and any other mental projector in here, there's a possibility that you have this channel because it's one of the channels that you could have and be a mental projector. You don't have to be a mental projector to have it though. A lot of people have it, I feel like. I talked to a lot of people. The girl I talked to earlier today, I did a podcast earlier today. She had the 1156. And I was like,
yeah, it's interesting. Like my best friend is a generator. So she has like spleen, sacral, and root, I believe. But then there's a gap and she just has the 1156. So there's a lot of kind of that soundboarding that she has to do.
Do you think that people have figured out the probability of having each channel?
I wonder. Surely somebody's gotten curious enough for that. Like I'm definitely curious to know, but not curious enough to do anything about it.
Good. That's what a healthy 1-3 sounds like, people. is yes, I have the dying urge to know because I have dying urge to know everything, but I'm good right now. Yeah. Wait till we're not talking. Yeah, no, I'll probably look it up later. I just thought that's funny because I read for a lot of people that have that channel, and I feel like I don't know if it's just because we have it and I see it. Maybe that's what it is, but
maybe. But with us, it's our only channel, so it comes across pretty loudly.
Yeah, that's true. And not a lot of designs have one channel to stand on, so
not a lot. But you know what? One time I met an emotional generator who just had the 659, and I was like, oh. I'm like, does everybody flirt with you? Like that's a big
that's weird. That's weird. Like, yeah, generators with like nothing going on. I'm like, what are you?
Yeah, I feel like that would be a lot to
it's like the openness of a non-sacral, but with like the sacral shield. Dun, 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 dun. Like it feels like it almost feels reflectory in the Teflon aura of a reflector. That having that sacral as one of your only two centers feels like a bigger deal. I don't know. It just that's what it feels like to me. Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have that enveloping aura, so people are just drawn to them. So they're constantly conditioned in a different way than us, right? Like we're just absorbing everybody, and they're enveloping everybody. Yeah. And so to have 7 undefined centers with that magnetic generator aura, especially with that one, to just have the 659, like I just want to follow you around.
And the sacral energy must mean you don't get as tired from other people's stuff because you have a sacral that probably helps you like chug along through it. I don't know. I mean, Sean is similar. He has 3. So I always look at him like, what is this? Because I feel his openness sometimes, like him needing to let some stuff out and needing a break. And his 2 sometimes is like, whoa. But then I like everything has this coating of sacral, like this sweet candy coating of sacral energy. So it doesn't come off as, I don't know, it feels, I'm always biased against generators, but it feels easier. But I'm sorry, I'm biased. I feel like in general, generators feel easier. I mean, it makes logical sense. Most of you are generators of some kind.
Yeah. So the majority of the population, it's like the world we've basically built. But everybody has the pros and the cons of their energy. And
yeah, that is interesting to have a generator with one channel. I never really even thought of that being a thing, but I guess that can happen. Manifestors, yeah, they could be one.
Yeah. Anybody
so a lot of you relate to an MG. Oh yeah, could they just have the
2034.
I wonder if
yeah, because if they have just that channel, they'd be an MG. Anything else throat to motor would make them
See, and then my head goes, is that possible? Like, do all the other mechanics that go with having the 20 and the 34 mean you would only have that one? I don't know. There's so much that goes on in a chart that I'm like, it's that meme of that guy Charlie from
Always Sunny.
that show. Yeah, going like this with all the things.
Everything on the board. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it just depends on what's going on in the sky. The 2034 is interesting because that's a sun earth combo. Like if you're born in a time when that's in the transits, then that's going to be your only thing. And then we had this time last year where 2034 was the north and south node for like months.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Like 6 months. I don't know, it felt like a really long time of a bunch of Manny Gen babies coming in the world. Like this is gonna
right. This is exciting. But yeah, when you first brought up 1156, let's talk about it. Like immediately I went to like how I find it interesting that we can grow up with conditioning that like steers us off of our design. Like I really didn't think of like I've talked about this before. Super shy, very quiet, didn't want to speak, was afraid to speak or do anything, and you are very similar. And so when I saw my chart and I was like 1156, it kind of, again, one of the many things that pissed me off because I was like, this is dumb. Like I've grown up my whole life not wanting to use my voice or not thinking it was a thing. So like, why is it a thing now? Obviously it's been a thing the whole time. I just conditioned myself to think that no one, for me, it was mainly that I'm not special and like no one, who cares what I have to say? Like that was really, to me, when I was a kid, communication was for something. Like if you spoke, it was to tell a joke or to get some food or I'm cold or like you need something. But I didn't like, I don't know, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't share a lot of opinions. Like it just felt really weird. It felt like attention seeking to use this, which is interesting because what's the throat not self thing?
Am I seeking attention?
Okay, cool. I was like, it's something with attention, I think. And that was a big feeling, would be like if I said anything out loud, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to get attention? Like that was a dumb thing to say. Now all these people are looking at you. This is what you wanted? Like I would be so annoyed with myself if I spoke because that meant I needed it. I had to have these people's attention. And that's just, why am I so high maintenance?
Yeah.
That's so funny. And when go ahead.
Like I have it similar from childhood, but it's like when I shared something that I knew or when I would ask questions, I felt like it would just really annoy people. So I just stopped doing it. Like I just piss people off. So I've got to figure out how to be somebody different.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel that one too. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we talked about Throat Center, when I did my Jess Fields mentorship, she talked about the seeking attention part. She mentioned it, but she's like, it's very, that one's weird for people to hear because like that can hit people the wrong way, especially people who grew up in certain ways where getting attention was, any attention was good attention or like bad attention. And I know, I understand how that phrase can be like for some people, and that's the not self for like the undefined center, right?
Yeah. But then that's the interesting thing is the not self can show up in the defined center. So yeah, it's just the general not self question. And it's interesting to me too, how they talk about with the undefined throat, you have that pressure. So it either shows up where you just can't stop talking. Like if there's any kind of a conversation, it just, you feel it, or you just shut down. Like the pressure is too much. You have no voice. And I find for myself that so many times in like when I'm around multiple people, I just can't talk. And I don't know if it's just because everything else in my system is just picking up on all these things, and so it's like my brain is just processing too much, words aren't coming out. But I always wonder, like, is there a not self thing happening here? Or
Yeah.
is it just that I'm just not invited in this space, and so I have nothing to say?
Yeah. Do you find that your defined throat sometimes supercharges people with undefined throats and really like gets them blah, 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 blah? Yeah. That I sometimes I look at Sean and I want to be like, hey, yes, you've told the story for like 15 minutes. Like I got it. But then I'm like, shit, that's me. Like it's me. Like it's this. And
Yeah.
he's just like and I'm like, dang.
Yes. Like they get in the space, they get excited. They're like, oh my gosh, I have words.
Oh, and he has a lot of them and he embellishes and the thing with me is I'm quick with a story. Like if I see where you're going with it, I'm like, all right, well, I'm out of this story now because I already know where it's going. So wrap it up because I
Yeah.
already know where we are.
Yeah.
And he's like, analogy, allegory, simile, all the weird words to like describe things. He'll use them all. And you're like, wow, you just described that thing in 12 different ways. Cool. And I love Sean, but so, like and I've told him this before. I'm like, sometimes you just tell like really long-winded stories. He's like, I know. He's like, I've noticed that. And it's not like he doesn't say it in like, I've noticed it like it's bad. He's just like, I've noticed that. Like he is excited by it.
I've noticed it. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So this is how we tell stories. So I have to be patient and I keep trying to remind myself, I'm just let him talk because there have been times when I've looked at him and gone, okay, wrap it up. Like I've said it to him. And that's kind of a dick thing to say. So I try to allow him to have his story, even if I know where it's going, like from the jump. I just let him
It's
describe it.
so hard sometimes.
Especially when you've got this ajna that's processing and like
Right.
I feel like we get to the point really quickly and other people are
Yeah.
still like arriving and you're like, oh my God,
You're like, I figured this out 10
I
minutes
know where you're going. Like, I know the punchline to this joke. Can we just continue?
Yeah.
And okay, good. That makes me feel better. I thought I just did that to Sean because he tells long-winded stories, but I do it to other people too. But I guess we just
I always
connect
just
the dots very quickly.
yeah. And I'm like, this person must have an open throat. And I'm like,
And you know what? Because of our conditioning, we've probably taught ourselves like, okay, you need X amount of words to get your point across. Psh, that's it. Like no more. You're good.
well, and think
Succinct.
about it. We're meant to be efficient with things as a
Yeah,
projectors. So we see things, others don't. We're meant to guide and we're meant to be efficient. So it makes sense.
it does make sense.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like a jerk. I have to let him tell his stories. And then when I tell a story, it's like da da da. And he's like, that's it. And I'm like, yep. this is what happened.
I feel like sometimes I'll get excited about stuff. And so I'll tell a story and I don't think it's too long-winded, but I'll just have details in there. And it's like I can feel this shift when people are annoyed. I don't know if that's like I really feel that or if it's just like my fear coming in that I'm boring people. And
Probably that.
so I'll just hurry up and shut it down and then never speak again because obviously I'm annoying.
This is like the longest probably like I get excited about talking at one time is when we do the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we just activate each other with all the electromagnetics.
We do. Like that 1156 that we both have. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, people. 1156 is from the ajna to the throat. It's called a lot of things. It's called Storytelling Gate, Channel of Curiosity, Rebeka's podcast. And okay. 11 is ideas, right? 11's ideas. And when I read about 11 originally, when I first learned about human design, I had this fear that I did not have enough ideas. Because the way they describe 11 is you are made of ideas, your body is bursting forth with ideas at all times. you will never stop having ideas. And I was like, I felt very inadequate because I wasn't constantly churning out ideas. To me, what felt like ideas, which to me means, how are you going to make money? What ideas can you make money with?
Interesting.
So yeah, when I first read about 11, I was like, I don't have this many ideas. Like, this can't be me. I don't have this. It felt very like, but now I see that I do have a good amount of ideas. It's just not what I thought it was before. Like, ideas feels very, like, what do you think?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember my first reaction to reading about the ideas. But I know just since really paying attention to all this, like the amount of times it's like daily where I'll say, just out of curiosity, or I'm curious about this thing, or I'll follow that curiosity. And I do notice I'll have a lot of ideas about things, but I've just kind of gotten to this spot where I just trust that the correct ideas will come through.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing with 11 is, even though you're having all these ideas, it doesn't mean you're supposed to act on all of them. According to how many ideas you should have, that would be impossible, because you're supposed to have billions. So a lot of them aren't for you. And a lot of them feel like they get stolen when somebody else does something similar. And you're like, this part I felt.
Worried about that a lot. Like, yeah, I know at the beginning. Yes. When we started working together, you're like, we can't talk about it. Someone's going to steal our idea.
And if you read 11, it literally says a sentence that's like, you'll worry that people take your ideas. And I was like, yeah, but I realized that that's not it at all. I'm just in the beginning in the similar headspace as a lot of the people, and we all come to a lot of the same conclusions. Yeah. And a lot of times I'll like something and think it's cool, and then I'll stop doing it. And then it comes other people start doing it. I'm like, hey, I was doing this and I thought I was dumb, and then I stopped, and now look at all you people. Ever. But yeah, I had that whole like people stealing my ideas thing. And then I was like, you know what? I really just don't worry about acting on ideas. Like, when you have an idea, just have it. You don't have to do anything with it. That's the big part of the 11 is trying to take action on all your ideas, no matter what your design is, would be more rough. And they're not all for you, which is another thing that always confused me. If they're not all for you, are you supposed to know who they're for? Or are you just supposed to know what's not for you? Or you're not supposed to know any of that stuff, and you're just supposed to share all of the ideas. And maybe it hits the person it's supposed to. I get like overthinky with some of these things, you guys.
I don't know, the way I see it, especially with just our one channel and with us being mental projectors, it's like the more you soundboard, the more like the correct idea will come through.
That's what I thought.
And plus, we don't have just the 11, we have the 56. So I don't see it as a solitary thing. Like, it's this idea coming through the gate of stimulation. So when you're soundboarding or when you're talking, like, that's going to present the correct idea. And maybe you just say something, somebody else gets excited, and like that idea was for them. Or
this is almost like the channel of soundboarding. Oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that, but that's what it feels like. I mean, I know all mental projectors don't have this channel. We all have the ajna defined in some way. That's part of it. But
well, and when we think about the fact that this is a collective channel, it's meant to guide the collective to a brighter future. So maybe none of the ideas are for us, they're for the collective.
You're totally right. I think you're right. Oh. Well, that makes me feel better, because then I don't feel the pressure. Like when I about 6-line role model pressure, I was like, oh God, now I have to be a role model. And then I realized I don't have to do anything. I feel like that's similar to ideas, is I don't really have to do anything. My energy and my conditioning is shouting at me to do something with this.
You have to do something with it, but no, it's a it's, yeah, I mean, it's a projector channel, you're a mental projector, you're not meant to do anything. You're be the guru on the mountain, and people come to you for your ideas and give you gold and then leave.
This new screensaver that Kashan updated to the computer is literally like this beautiful, like, it's not a mountain, it looks like some sort of like vineyard, but it's like raised up, and as you look past, you see all these mountains with like clouds and stuff. And so when you said that, I was like looking at the mountains and clouds. I was like, oh, I'm on the mountain.
Yes. Yeah, or I guess in your case, you'd be in a cave. You'd be hanging out in your cave. And
they have caves on the mountain.
Yeah,
I can be in a high cave. I can be in a well-ventilated cave.
That smells good. People would bring you very specific incense.
See, if I had a cave, I would like chisel little holes in the wall. Like, these are my windows. This is my ventilation area. Do you enjoy it? Because I don't know. I can't picture a cave without like windows. It feels very weird.
Yeah. That's funny. I never picture a cave with windows, just like
I literally, if I picture a cave without windows, it's like dungeony, like with like liquid bubbling up and like smoke. It feels very scary. It just feels like Halloween-y. Like, that's what I think of. But when I picture like, okay, if I had to live in my environment, like if the world changed and human design ruled the earth and they said, hey, you are required to live in your environment, I would have a cave with like really good windows.
That reminds me of like the homes from the ancient civilizations where they're like on the side of a mountain, and it's like adobe or something, but they have holes cut out on the sides. That's what I'm picturing when you talk about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing too. Very similar. And I feel like I would be all right with that.
Yeah.
As long as I can leave it too. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, you can't just stay in the cave. But I think that's part of cave's environment is very survival based. And I feel like cave's environment, survival view, both of them have this thing that can cause you to be overly cautious at times. Which, again, neither bad nor good, just a thing. But I feel like those energies automatically add a little caution into really any decision or choice that I make.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would want to be able to leave my cave so that I can like feel free in the wind and see the sky. My 58 is like, you need to get some joy out of this life, and you can't just be in the cave all the time. But it does sound nice. And I get real cavey around this time of year too. Like this time, I mean, everybody does like the whole cozy stuff, even if it's 90 degrees where you live.
Yeah. I'm like, it's only 90.
Is it 90 right
now? About.
No. The high today is 84, and it will get 84 for like an hour and then go back down. That's when I know the weather has started to change, is in the morning. It's actually like cold. It's 88, you guys. It's 88. It's 88 in Friendswood, people.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
So it's not like total death.
No. Well, that's good. But yeah, the 1156, I think a part of me, sometimes I get extreme about stuff. I don't know why I do this, but like when I first learned about design and I saw that was our only channel, a part of me felt pressure. Like, I have to express this really good. Like, I have to figure out how to really live the 1156 life, because that's all I am, is 1156. Like, it felt very, this is all that you are. Now, obviously, I've learned a lot more about design, and there's so many other parts and pieces, but sometimes it still feels very much like, especially when other people talk about their channels within us, I'm like, 1156.
Yeah, like there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I kind of had the opposite, where it was kind of a relief, like, oh, okay, like I just have this one thing.
Yeah, but then you only have that one thing.
Well, yeah, but for me, that takes so much pressure off. Like I'm
I
not
don't
trying
like
to take these other things.
that's so weird. I feel like when you like this, I was like, you just put it on me because I'm feeling like not you did it, but like to me, it feels so like you have to be this one thing. And I know it's not what it is, but it's like it took pressure off of you though.
Yeah, but maybe that's because like I've always felt drawn to being a teacher of some kind. And so when I look at that channel plus my other like some other specific placements, I'm like, oh, this is how I teach. Like I really am meant to teach. And so I teach through storytelling. Like I'm meant to share what I know.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Like it just kind of relaxed me a bunch. I don't have to keep doing all these things and chasing all this other stuff and trying to prove anything. I just
Yeah.
show up and share my stories and ask my curious questions.
It took me a while. It took me a little bit to get to this spot where that because I feel much more like that. But when I first saw it, I was like, this channel doesn't sound very exciting, and it's my only one. Boo. But like I get what you mean now.
Yeah.
And it is nice to not have a lot of other stuff going on. But sometimes I get channel FOMO.
I can understand that for sure. Maybe it's
But
also because I live with my boys are just one now, I guess, but it's like I get to kind of feel things out for a while and I don't know, just a
the
theory.
transit's held too. Like we get other stuff. That's the other thing is when you're as open as we are,
Yeah,
surprise, you still
you get to play with
get
it.
you get other stuff popping in and out. Oh, I read something really cool. Someone posted it. I think it was Joyful Projector posted it today about something Raw said about reflectors, how they're much more influenced by the transits than they are by another person with that same mechanics coming into their aura. So if someone came into their aura with gate 5 versus the planet transiting into gate 5, that energy would be they would actually feel that and it'd be much more of an influence on them than this person, which makes so much sense when you think of their Teflon energy, like kind of buffering them from humans, but not so much planets. Like I was like, oh, like he was saying it's just stronger energy. So it just, they don't have as much of a Tefloniness, I guess. And that got me thinking, like, does that mean it's stronger for us?
I think so because
I
like
think so too.
we have that absorbing aura and an open body, so I feel like we are way more sensitive than reflectors. And
But do you think the planets, what they're transiting into, do you think that we would necessarily feel that more than perhaps a person coming into our aura would
I don't
affect
know.
our
I don't
mechanics?
know if I just
That's
in my
interesting. Yeah.
experience, I don't I mean that's something I'll have to ponder on and like observe in the future, but because we're meant to absorb others. So I feel like it's real easy to pick up on other people's energy when they're in our aura because that's what we're designed to do. But then also there's plenty of times there's been multiple times I'll wake up at a random time at night just with a bunch of energy and realize 3 kicked on some like at the time and it hooked up to
Yeah.
my 60 and so now I have this format
You're
channel.
in your own aura and then you have this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm just asleep and the moon's like, "Hey."
Format channel, bitch.
Right?
And
It's
we've talked about this before, how with me, I feel like I get like a delayed, like I don't feel like I feel it. And then later I'll be like, this feels weird. And I'll
yeah.
check. And it's like we transited maybe the day before. And now I'm starting to feel it. I'm like, it's just like a delayed onset thing. And I think it is. Like,
Yeah,
who knows how long it takes us to process?
it's interesting because sometimes it'll be I'll look back, I'm like, "Oh, no, I felt it, like, right when it kicked on, that's weird," and sometimes I won't feel things. Like, not every time the moon goes through 3 am I feeling it, but then, like, earlier today, the moon went in 21, like, I just noticed, I was checking the transits right when we popped on, and I was like, "Oh, that's why I suddenly had this urge to really check in on my money. I was like, I've got to budget everything.
Like budget time.
Yeah, I just think it's funny. It's like, oh, the
It
money
is.
channel was lit up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's a big part of design is it's not like fortune telling, or it's not a prediction of the future, and it's not always going to happen the same way as it did before. But that doesn't mean that it's not there, and that doesn't mean that you're not doing human design right. I used to think that a lot, especially when I started to get into the transits, that if I didn't feel this transit that everybody was talking about, like what's wrong with me? And especially when you're on social media and people are making memes of like, oh, this transit, haha, this is how we're feeling, and oh, this is funny. And I get it, but I'm also like, I don't know if I feel that. And I'm wondering if, and I want to ask you this, like how sometimes you feel the transits and sometimes you don't, like meh, meh. When I first learned about transits, I was like, I got to figure out how to feel these. And it was like a thing where I was like, I always have to do that. I'm like, how do I do this perfectly, exactly how everybody else is doing? And like when they make funny memes about what the transit they're feeling, and I'm like, ha ha ho ho. But do you think some of it has to do with the fact that we already kind of have a hard time feeling stuff like in here? I know not all the transits are in the body, but I've got my thinking hat on. I'm wondering if I'm going to pay attention now to when the transits are body and when they're,
I wonder. Well, I know like in the past, whenever something connects to your crown, you're like, my head hurts. Or when your root is defined through the transits. I feel like you've mentioned that.
The root one really gets me.
Yeah.
Oh, my eyes itching like crazy. The root one is just like, I've gotten better with it now because I mean it's defined right now in the 1858, but I feel like I'm better with it now because I know what it sounds like. We've talked about the voices of the centers, and not all of my centers have a distinct voice that stays the same all the time, or sometimes they don't talk at all. But the root center always has the same general gruffness to the voice that I recognize it. And I almost feel like my ajna has logicked its way into this thing of, I feel that when it's coming and I'm faster than the root center energy, and I'm shutting it down faster than it's happening because I can hear it. Like I know when he's not fast enough. I don't know how else to put it because the root center is a motor and it's actually fast. So like to me, to say that it's not quick enough sounds not correct. But at the same time, I almost feel like maybe it's because I know that I'm like very familiar with it now. Like when it happens in the transits or when I'm around somebody, I usually don't feel it. Sometimes it's weird. It's root center, so it's got no rhyme or reason for when it happens. And it does feel very like pulsy when it's like, whoa, and I'm like, hey there, root. But it's almost like he can't hide from me. He's very conspicuous. He's not very stealth, my root center. He's a bull in a china shop. And I hear him and I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. This up here, sly devil. He's quiet and he's not as like, I don't know why I keep saying he, could be whatever, but it, this, them, whatever. He's quieter and like he kind of can sneak in and give me anxiety before I know what's happening. And then I'm like, oh, that's where we are. Yeah. So they're both different, but they're both defined right now in the transits for me because I have the 6147, 6447, and the 1858. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, again, like I said, when I first learned about transits, I almost felt like I was doing transits wrong because I didn't always feel it. Like it didn't click on. Like, oh, this transit,
Yeah.
I feel it, click. And I had to like release that was like a thing that you could even control. So I just feel like now there's really no rhyme or reason to it. There's a lot going on energetically in the world. And when it all kind of clicks together and you're like, oh, I feel that thing, you can't really control it or make it happen again, which is what I would want to do.
Well, and that's why I tend to encourage people to just observe, because it's not just you, like so many people get really in their head about it because we're humans and we want to make sense of stuff and we want to kind of know what we're doing. And so there's this like over analysis that happens, and it's like you don't always know. And when in the beginning, I remember when I first heard someone like, oh, when something goes in the transits, just observe how you feel. And I'm like, what? Like it seemed so weird.
And you're like, do I feel different? I don't know if I feel different. I don't think I feel different. And
Yeah.
then sometimes you, like you said, sometimes you really do. And you're like, whoa, that one was weird. And I think a lot of times, especially for me, there's certain defined gates that I have that I like, we've talked about a million times, gate 5. Like I know when that is going through my energy and I know when that's happening because it's very, I just know that one. I know it. Like the back of my hand, I know it. But like if you talk about gate 1, which is my personality sun,
Mhm.
I don't always connect with creative self-expression because it feels like a big concept. And it's just like cool. I mean, I know when I'm doing it, but I don't know. It doesn't, I don't know. It
It's just
doesn't.
so interesting to me because, like, part of me really wonders where this pressure comes from that you put on yourself. I'm like, is this part of the survival view where you're like, oh, I've got to do this so I can survive? Is it just conditioning from your childhood? And then also with the creative self-expression, like I feel like that would really suppress it if you're putting pressure on it to do it the right way. But I really see a lot of creativity in your cooking when you share that.
That's what I feel the most creative when I'm doing stuff like this and when I'm cooking and baking,
Yeah.
which is the season. So I will be baking a lot. I'm excited.
I wish I lived closer.
Everybody at work loves me because I can't keep it all here or we'll eat it all. So I take a lot of stuff to work.
I would take advantage for
They
sure.
get very excited. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna look into making. I always say I'm gonna make some new and different stuff, and then I always make the same stuff. So hopefully we'll see about it. We'll see if I make some new stuff. It'll be
That
fun.
seems appropriate for the alternating appetite.
That I would make the same things.
Yeah.
There's certain things that like are very nostalgic to me, so I like want to make them during the holiday time, especially. But there's stuff that Sean has got like really into that they keep like stuff that I would randomly make like a one-off cookie recipe, and he's like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then I have to always make them, and I'm like, I didn't even like think these, like they were good, but I was like, I didn't think this would go this way. And then like there's these mint chocolate cookies that him and his sister like are always like, are you making the cookies? You're making the cookies, right? You're making the cookies. I'm like, yeah, I'm making the. Why do you like them so much? They're just, I don't know. I like them too, but I don't know. Some people like really, and I'm like I told you, I bring cookies on Wednesday most of the time during this time of year. But when it gets hotter or when it's after the holidays and I don't, the first few Wednesdays I didn't, people were like actually mad at me at work. They're like, why didn't you bring cookies? It's like, who am I? Your fucking cookie slave?
Right.
And I got kind of mad. I was like, hey, just so that y'all know, when it gets hot outside, I don't like to run the oven. So I'm not going to be making cookies. It just doesn't feel as fun to
Yeah.
bake cookies when it's 90 degrees outside. Sorry, jerks. I only do it because it's fun for me.
Oh my
And
God.
they figured it out. And then now that summer's over, people are like, so cookies? Cookies?
They've been like patiently waiting all summer.
I've made a few batches already and taken them in. So they're doing fine. I usually don't tell them whether or not I'm planning on bringing cookies in on Wednesday of the following week, because if I don't want them to be like, you said. They're like little children. But this last time I got some rum from work so I could like make these oatmeal rum raisin cookies that I've been wanting to make. And I told the bartender what I was doing, and then he told everybody. And so now they're like, so you're bringing cookies Wednesday, right? I'm like, you guys know that's like a week. This is last Wednesday, because that's when I work. And so I was like, yeah, next week I am planning on it. Yes. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, fuck, now I have to do it. So that's my thing, is I usually don't tell them when I am or am not, so that no one can expect anything. But they're nice. Like it is nice that they're like rabid animals, because that must mean they're good. So that is nice to hear. And every year someone is like, why don't you open a shop? Why don't you sell these? Why don't you this? And I was like, I don't know. Why don't you do it? That's what I say. I go, you want to do it? I'll give you cookies. You sell them. Like, I don't have the energy for that. And I know now, like I tried an Etsy store I was making like body scrubs and face creams and stuff. And it's too much work.
What if Sean did that end of it though? Like you just made the things and then Sean uploaded.
He's not the best on like the marketing stuff either. Like both of us have a really hard time like coming up with like a marketing plan and like consistent copy and like all the ads and stuff. Like we both get very similarly like about we talked about it before, and our faces are both just like, I don't want to do this. And so I feel for him when I see that he has trouble marketing his own business, because I'm like, oh, I know, like I don't want to do it either. We both, I think, are the type of people that would need to hire somebody to do it for us. But if I had like a website, like an Etsy store, he'd help me like logistically keep everything together. But again, that's like,
that's what I meant, like having Sean upload.
It just seems too hard. And I don't know honestly who I would market it to, or I don't know. I don't think I would sell anything. That's probably what it boils down to, is I just don't think I'd sell anything.
There's women on my local Facebook group page, like moms of this town, who sell homemade cookies, and they do great.
Another thing is, this is the other big thing, I don't decorate. My cookies
they're
look like cookies.
That's what they do.
No frosting, no decor. It's chips and nuts, and like I don't make things look nice. They don't like decorate them or like make fancy cookies or anything.
Cookies. Yeah.
Cookies. Well, hell, who knows? Maybe I'll try. Or maybe I'll find somebody at work who actually wants to do it for me. Because I have said that. I'm like, if you guys want to do it, like I will make cookies. If that's all I have to do.
If somebody else was navigating the orders, like they're the ones people talk to. They're like, hey, I want this many cookies. And then that person came to you and was like, okay, Janelle, you got to make 2 dozen chocolate chip this week.
That would be cool. I would like that. Even if I had to talk to customers, that wouldn't be the worst thing. It's really the like marketing and like who would know, like how would, I don't know that. But that blows my mind about everything. Like I can't wrap my head around that for my own business or like anything. It gets I don't know if I start to immediately go into all the steps and then I just get overwhelmed. I feel like I stepped into a room and there's just so many things on like writing all over the wall, and I have to step out. I'm like, this is too much going on in here. I have to leave. And I step out, and I can't pick a step.
Would you want to make a bakery business? I think that's the most important question.
Rebeka wants to run my bakery business, guys. That's what she's trying to figure.
I'm just curious.
I mean, sure, if I didn't have to market it and I could be successful. So what everybody would want from their business.
Because here's the thing, I'm getting like more and more excited about helping people like in this stage of like, well, like especially with mental projectors. I'm like, deserve to have your own business. You're a mental projector. Like, let's not run out your energy. And I get excited about helping people figure that out. But then also I just think about like stuff. There's this bakery called the Cake Lady Bakery in this town that I live in. And I worked there in high school a little bit, and it was around for like 25 years. And it was this lady just started it in her house because she wanted to stay home with her kids. And then she became the place. Like, if you didn't have a Cake Lady cake at your birthday party, then you were obviously a loser. Like, you had to have a Cake Lady cake.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it does sound exciting. And I do, first of all, I have been seeing you get into this business stuff, and I've been really like, I get excited when I see you post stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool. So, but I like that question. Like, do you want to have your own business? Because when you think about it, people romanticize that a lot. Like, you're your own boss. Everybody wants that, right? Like, literally every single person should want that. Not everybody does. Not everybody energetically works that way. And so I go back and forth. I feel like I could have my own business, but I would need support. Multiple people. Like, it's just me now. And I think that's part of the reason why it's like, oh, I'm out here by myself, like, it feels very me. Having you helps because it's like pod partner, like, gives you some support, some like there's somebody here with you. But like the idea of having like a team of people who are there to like help you succeed sounds amazing. Like, it's one of those things that when I say it out loud is like, that's not possible. Like, that's not real life.
Totally possible.
I know, but it sounds like too nice. Like earlier, how I was saying I didn't want to speak. What was I saying? Now I've lost my train of thought. But basically, how I don't want to like to make waves, or I don't want it to be about me. Like, I don't want to pull attention to me. That's what it is. This, like, having a team feels like, but I know that's not what it is. Like, you're paying people. So obviously they're
and there's
excited.
People that love marketing. And
I know. And there's people who are good at it and who love it. I don't know, like a human design marketing person.
Okay, it's like you were saying though, like you are thinking 200 steps ahead, and that is overwhelming. So really the only question to ask is like, how does it feel when you think about having your own business, like baking things? Like, just think about if you made money from baking things that you
I've thought about that before.
Then is that something you even want to do, or is it just something that you like to do? Like,
no,
that's important.
It feels very successful to give somebody something you made and have them like it so much that they come back again to get the same thing. To say, hey, you don't have a Cake Lady cake. Like, who are you? Like, that feels like success with a capital S.
Yeah.
I also feel very similar when I think about like having sessions with people and helping them and guiding them in that regard with human design and intuition. Doing that also feels, I get that feeling too. It's very similar, but what comes with both of them is somebody looking at me and going, wow, you did such a good job. I'm coming back to you. Because I've had a client who I've worked with, we've had 6 sessions now, and like, to have that person come back is
a
like,
good feeling.
It's like, you what? Like, how do you like me that much? Like, how am I giving you that much that you'll come back again because you want more? Like, it feels so like when you were saying you sold multiple charts or multiple reads to the same person. It's got to be like it feels amazing, but it's also like, what did I do? Who is this person? Like, I guess that's what imposter syndrome is, but I would love to feel that all the time if that's what it is, because it's actually quite nice to have people remind you and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do, have some worth in regards to this thing that I do. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like both ways, I feel very like it would be cool.
That's the recognition aspect, right? Because like that's how we know we're in the right place. That's what I was telling another client where she was like, I just want recognition, and that feels so icky to say. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You're a mental projector. Like that's how you know where you're meant to be.
I understand what she means though. It does
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like
No,
you're
I
asking
understand
for
too,
stuff
because
from people.
yeah, I used to feel that way too, but it like at the same time, like that's part of what I want to help people with. Like, no, that's a signpost for you. That's not a selfish thing at all. That's a necessary thing. You actually need that to know that you're in the correct
And so
place.
much conditioning in this world is like, you don't care what anyone else says or thinks, or don't worry about what anybody tells you about your business. Like, blah, you don't need any of that stuff. It's like some of us do better when we're receiving. It's almost like recognition is like feedback. It's like I need feedback that I'm on the right path. But recognition feels like supercharged I don't know, it feels like sparkly feedback, supercharged something that feels very individual to me.
Back with glitter.
Yeah, it's like like recognition is the ultimate
Yeah,
feedback.
it's the best. It's the best. I know someone asked me about it once, and I was like, about like what it felt like. I was like, if recognition could pay the bills, like it's like that's what gives the energy. Like,
yeah,
that's really all I need.
yeah, and it's observational feedback, which makes sense that we would be really into it, especially as mental projectors, because it's very like up here, because we're saying, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm giving you this thing, what do you think? Tell me your thoughts. And then, I mean, we're not asking them, but that's what recognition essentially is we're giving something or showing something or sharing something, and they're telling us their thoughts about it. Feedback, which is not soundboarding, and we're not supposed to want this stuff. But that's where I think like soundboarding and recognition kind of, because I've said this before, I want to hear what people have to say sometimes. And then I'm like, oh, I'm doing this soundboarding thing wrong. This is not soundboarding because I want to know what they have to say. So I'm not doing this right. But I don't think that's what it is. I think this part is always going to want to try to conceptualize what's going on. And if there's a way to conceptualize a conversation, it's going to want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a good one yet again. And if you have the 1156, or if you don't, or if you have a single channel and you just want to tell us about it, go for it. Yeah. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your feedback. Your ultimate feedback recognition, baby.
We always love the comments and things, so thank you.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening and or watching.
Bye.